Welcome, everybody. This is Civil Disobedience TV. Again, I'm your host, George Donnelly. Today's Martin Luther King Day, and we are celebrating and honoring the very good people who disobey unjust laws, the folks who have the courage and the conviction to stand up for what is right and to put their own selves, their own bodies, even on the line for that. And I want to welcome you to my next guest, Jason Talley. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great. It's good to see everybody, George. It's a pleasure to be on with you.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Jason. Do you consider yourself an activist?
I do consider myself an activist. I think it's important. I like to share ideas of peace, freedom, justice, liberty, and so that's what brought me to Free Grafton. And I live in the Shire. I moved here as part of the Free State Project, but to New Hampshire. But I think the ultimate in civil disobedience is individual secession, just not cooperating with immoral things. I mean, I try to be a moral person, and so I can't have the state do awful things in my name and then try to steal from me in order to pay for it. I just can't cooperate with that, and so that's why I'm excited about these networks that we're building. What I'm working on is Free Grafton, but also Shire wide. And so, there's also Free Keene and these other independent networks where we can cooperate with one another to resist the state in any form of aggression.
Amen. So, what are some of the things, one or two things that the state spends money on that you object to, that you consider unjust or illegitimate or simply wrong?
Well, obviously there's war. Only states can commit mass murder on that level. So, which is a great argument why you should get rid of the state. Um, but let's bring it down to a local level. There's my friend we call Weeda Claus, Bob Constantine, and George, are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm still there. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay. And so he was growing some plants on his property, and the state of New Hampshire and a nearby town of Canaan, they sent their police department on his property and put him in chains. They kidnapped him and fingerprinted him and did the whole works. And his life has been turned upside down. There's the threat that they may steal his property. They may put him in a cage for a couple of years. Why would I possibly want to fund an organization that does that? Bob's a great guy. I mean, he helps his community. He's obviously has a family and friends that love him. So there's no way I'm going to give them any money. One thing that my New Year's resolution
Hmm.
is to stop paying the prepared sales tax in New Hampshire. It's 9%. It's a little bit something that I can do. I already don't pay an income tax on the federal level. New Hampshire doesn't have an income tax, but
Uh-huh.
in order to defund these guys, I don't go to restaurants, and by doing that, we can start encouraging people to start selling each other food. I do construction work at the Grafton Gulch, which has never asked permission to do anything. You can stop by if you have a membership. And you can get food there, burgers and hot dogs and stuff like that. There was a state sanitarian that stopped by on the property and littered on the property, issuing an order for him to comply. There's a video if you Google Tally TV in Grafton Gulch, you'll be able to find
I've
it.
seen that.
But it's great because the people here that were selling food, they're like, well, we're gonna keep doing it, and we're not gonna stop. And because I want to encourage that type of behavior, I started doing Taco Tuesdays, and because every time the state cracks down, hopefully it'll inspire more activism and more people just saying no to unjust laws.
That's excellent. So, um, you're preparing food for people who voluntarily, without any compulsion or anything, are gonna purchase it, consume it, but you're not seeking any kind of permission from the government there. And what's more, you're not charging any tax on those meals. Is that right?
That's exactly right. There's no
Well,
way I would. I'm going to be a tax collector for the state so they can engage in their immoral behavior.
well, kudos. I mean, that is really excellent, and I applaud you. So, are you worried about any consequences from this? How does it make you feel to take this step?
uh, there will be consequences, but these are all opportunities where we can have broader discussions about the nature of the state and why does the state need to get involved in between myself and my taco customers. There's no need for it. They keep coming back, like you said, it's voluntary. If they didn't like the food or the service, they wouldn't come back. It's just that simple.
Yeah. So, did you come to this decision to engage in the disobedience of unjust laws? Did you come to it easily, or did you struggle with it for a while first?
Well, when I first started civil disobedience, it was kind of fun stuff. Like in the state of Maine, you can't have Christmas decorations outside your home, a certain time of the year. So I had another motorhome. It's my motorhome previous to Marv that we use for Motorhome Diaries and is currently used for Liberty on Tour. So I put Christmas decorations all over and I drove it across the state. I wasn't really worried about that. And so that kind of got my feet wet, and I've been able to do, more and what I consider better civil disobedience over time. So no, I don't really sweat it.
That's great. What about your friends or family? How have they reacted? Are they critical of you?
You know what? It's interesting because I have a twin brother, and he works for the State Department, and so we don't really talk about these things. But yeah, I mean, my friends are my fellow Shire activists, and I get nothing but support. And Free Grafton, it's great because we just have like 30, 40 people here that are activists, of different types. But I get a lot of support, and I support them, and it's great being in such a high density area of really super activists that
Hmm.
can network and support one another.
That's excellent. So, do you dislike all laws or only certain
No.
ones? And how do you decide which ones to obey and which ones to not obey?
Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of natural law, right? And
Hmm.
the golden rule, we want to treat people as we want to be treated. But I don't need a state to tell me that or to regulate that type of behavior because, I consider myself a decent person, and I hang out with other decent people, and so we're trying to build a decent community. When the state comes in, they're the criminals. They're the ones that are harming people. For whatever reason, whether it's at the beck and call of special interest or because of mob rule, democracy. That people have no claim on my life, so I'm going to live the way I want to, which is hopefully with integrity. And when the state tries to get in that way, I'm going to break their dumb rules.
So, what do you say to the people who say government's just looking out for us? They're just trying to protect us, and your food that you serve to people may have something dangerous in it unless the state, makes sure it's safe, and that's a necessary function. What do you say to those people?
I would say that you go to any restaurant and you're at danger of having food contaminated. There's not a government employee that's always looking over the shoulder of the food prep. So I think there people a lot of times put a false sense of security just because something is state licensed. I would much rather things be reputation based than and so if I was making people sick with my tacos, then word would get out and I would be out of business. But I mean, it's not like I'm really making money. I'm doing this because I like tacos and because I like the civil disobedience aspect and because I want to support Barsky and the Grafton Gulch Project. But yeah, I mean, it's like if you didn't have a license to drive, you could actually still start your car and drive around. I mean, but speaking of that, Rich Angel, another one of my Free Grafton neighbors, he was recently pulled over in Keene. And actually, there was like four cop cars. You don't see this in Grafton, but there's two state troopers and there was two Keene police cruisers that were behind him, and he and Evan
Mm-hmm.
Pierce, Emperor Evan, were in the car. And it was great because in Keene, again, you have a high concentration of activists. So there were probably eight activists, with the cameras and calling Pork 411 in support. And so the cop. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. Rich has a certificate of driving competence. He does not have a driver's license, and he's been driving just fine for
Ah.
years. As part of his job, he drives heavy equipment, um, but he just refuses to be licensed. And so this is going to go to court, but he's going to get a lot of support here for his activities. And I'm going to be supporting him. We're going to be following this story on both freegrafton.com and tally.tv.
That's excellent.
Um,
So
yeah, and
you
so go
so
ahead.
so you feel that the requirement to have a permission slip, a driver's license from the government, you feel that's an unjust law?
Absolutely,
I,
absolutely. I mean, there's no reason why people need to be numbered, licensed. Um, and that's a problem with the state monopoly on the roads. I mean, if they were private roads, then they could have different mechanisms. But for the state to have all this information, it just it's they just want money. They just want money and power over you.
Amen. So, was it hard for you to come on Civil Disobedience TV and talk about this? Are you concerned about talking about your disobedience in public?
No, I encourage everybody to, and I think it's a good thing for people to be outspoken about it because there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to hide because we're the ones that are trying to do the right thing. And I don't. I'm a peaceful guy. I don't consider this a revolution. I consider it an evolution. And if we can help people along in the way changing their thinking, I think we have to be more outspoken about it. And that's what I try to do with my own life.
Nicely said, Jason. So, what is your message to those people out there who feel that the law is the law? All laws must be obeyed, whether they're just or unjust, in anybody's opinion. What do you say to those folks?
It's a topic that comes up a lot, and you just have to go, back into history and ask them, would you obey the laws that would force you to return slaves to their master? I certainly wouldn't. Would you be one of those people that wanted to crack down on the people that you have mentioned? Gandhi, Thoreau, Martin Luther King Jr., which we're celebrating today. No, I would want to be on the right side of history. And with these drug laws, people being put in cages for simply growing a plant. These judges that were against here in Grafton. These guys are on the wrong side of history. The prosecutors that are prosecuting Weedy Claus. Um, they're
Hmm.
they're gonna have to answer one day for what they did, and it's awful. They get a paycheck for harming peaceful people. It's awful.
They're 40 pieces of silver, I guess, huh?
Right, exactly.
Very sad to see people on the wrong side of history and, unable to kind of to backtrack from that and find a better way forward.
Yeah, well, we have to educate them, and I do. With my camera and with Tally TV, I'll talk to cops and I'll ask them these questions. If they what they think they're doing is moral or immoral, because I don't think a lot of them uh, have thought about that or answered the question. They think, oh well, if it's legal, then it's moral, and if it's illegal, it's immoral. But that's why no, these politicians are not the arbiters of that. They have all these conflicting interests. That in New Hampshire, it's really interesting because the state of New Hampshire sells liquor. They sell $500 million worth of liquor. They have these big banners on these stores on the interstates that say "stock up and save." So they're pushing it on people. But in my opinion, liquor is far more harmful than marijuana and a lot of things. But the state is okay selling that while locking peaceful people up in cages. And
Yeah,
so,
that's a pretty insane situation where, you can face losing your property and going to jail for several years just for growing plants that have
yeah,
served
just for
humanity well for 10,000 years.
yep, exactly. And and they're locking up their competition essentially.
Hmm. Yeah, nicely said. So, Jason, I thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I've really enjoyed this, and I think this has been a great conversation. Before we go, do you have any projects you'd like to plug? Tell our audience about?
Oh, well, so many. I mean, I mentioned Tally.tv, where I tried to report from the front lines of freedom, mostly in the Free Grafton area, but Shire wide, and Civil Disobedience Evolution Fund, where I'm the executive director. What I want to do, George, is post a lot of these videos that you've been producing today. I think that'll be great content. I'm really excited about that. But
Excellent.
yeah, and so I accepted that position because it's really important to support the good people that break bad laws. And so, we could activists could use a lot of support. And George, I appreciate what you're doing today.
Well, it's my pleasure, especially when I can do it together with good folks like you, Jason. Hey, I
Awesome.
wish you a happy. Oh, by the way, just for a clarification for our audience, Tally is Talley, and then it's .tv, so Tally.tv. And Jason does some
Yes,
really
thank you.
great videos there of frontline activism. I watch them all the time, and I really enjoy them. So thanks again, Jason, and I wish you a great day. Talk to you
Back
later,
at you,
man.
George.
Okay,
Take care.
bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.